All right, so today we are diving into the world of education.
Yeah.
And, you listeners have given us a really interesting jumping off point
Yeah.
with this book, Fostering Parent Engagement for Successful Schools by Patrick Darfler-Sweeney.
It's a great book, and to
Yeah.
really kind of get into it, you've also given us like excerpts from the book,
Right.
a foreword by his daughter Molly,
Wow.
and even some background on Darfler-Sweeney himself. So it's really like
Yeah, so we can kind of like,
a 360
in a
view.
360 view of this whole thing.
Exactly.
Not just the theory, but like real life experience.
And you mentioned this story, right?
Yes.
About the author and like this advice that he got as like a brand new teacher.
Yeah.
And it's like the most cryptic advice ever.
This is like some like Zen master on the mountain,
Right.
giving
What
him
was it?
the secret.
6 and 18.
Season 18, he was told.
6 and 18, that's it.
That's all he was told?
Like, what?
I know, and he's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But it's this deceptively simple concept
Okay.
that gets at like the core of like what we're talking about.
Okay.
Because think about it. Students spend 6 hours a day in school,
Right.
roughly,
Yeah.
which leaves 18 hours
Oh.
under the guidance of their parents.
15, 18.
Wow. So just on a pure numbers game,
Yeah.
like our parents are the primary educators.
I see why that stuck with him.
Yeah.
That's a real, like, mind shift.
I know, and he talks about this in the book.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from challenging some common assumptions.
Okay.
He draws a parallel to this report
Okay.
from 1983
Mm-hmm.
called A Nation at Risk.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of this.
And it basically claimed that American schools were failing.
Didn't that report, though, turn out to be based on, like, kind of iffy data?
Yeah, a lot of it was later debunked.
Oh, but yeah.
But it highlights this thing that
Right.
like perception, even if it's based on like shaky ground.
Can be incredibly powerful.
So even though this report wasn't totally accurate,
Right.
it still put all this pressure on educators
Exactly.
to like fix everything.
It's like suddenly the spotlight
Uh-huh.
was on them.
Yeah.
Even though education is like this
Yeah.
complex
It's not just one thing.
interplay of factors.
Yeah.
Right.
So the 6 and 18 thing though,
Yes.
it's like you're saying it broadens that spotlight.
It forces us to like broaden it
Okay.
because it reminds us
Right,
that
right.
what happens in those other 18 hours matters.
It's not just on the teacher's shoulders.
Right.
It's recognizing that parents play this huge part too.
Yeah. And he talks about
How do you balance that?
that's the thing.
Right, because it's not about putting all the responsibility on parents either.
And he argues that there's
well-
been this subtle but significant
No.
shift in how we view education.
Okay, how so?
We've gone from seeing it as like
Okay.
providing an opportunity to this expectation of guaranteed outcomes.
It's like we're ordering a pizza now.
I know, right?
You pay your taxes, you expect a perfectly cooked result
Right?
delivered to your door.
Exactly.
But learning's not like,
But kids are not pizzas.
yeah, it doesn't quite work that way.
It's a little more complicated.
And he uses these legal cases to illustrate this point.
He does.
Like,
He talks about this case, Donahue v. Kopiog,
Okay.
where a student graduated reading at like a 4th grade level,
oh, wow.
and the family sued,
Oh, really?
saying that the school had failed their son,
Wow.
but the court actually disagreed.
Wow, so this case, it's like this tension, right?
Yeah,
Where, yeah, everyone deserves a quality education.
absolutely.
But it also highlights that, like, the student and the family
Mm-hmm.
have this responsibility
Right.
to, like, actively engage in the process.
Right. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, it's not a one-sided transaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he even connects it back to Brown v. Board of Education,
Wow, okay.
arguing that even this monumental case, at its core, was about providing equal opportunity to learn,
Okay.
right? Dismantling segregation so that everyone has that chance.
It's like leveling the playing field, but then
Right.
it's up to the players,
Exactly.
the students and the families,
Right.
to make the most of it.
To make the most of that opportunity.
Interesting.
And that leads us to another point that he brings up,
Okay.
is how these opportunities play out in the real world,
Right,
especially given the challenges of the 21st century.
right.
He actually draws this parallel between like our time now
Yeah.
and 1968,
Okay.
which was like a year of just like immense social upheaval.
Yeah, a lot of things changing.
A lot of things changed.
Sounds familiar.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like back then, he
Yeah.
argues that events like the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
have had this deeply unequal impact on education.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw that firsthand, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all lived through the craziness of like remote learning,
Oh, yeah.
like the scramble for technology,
Yep.
the like social and emotional toll
Totally.
that it took on kids.
Absolutely. And it's no secret.
And it was very unequal
Right. Very unequal.
in terms of like who could weather that storm.
And that's where this 6 and 18 dynamic becomes even more crucial, because if parents are essentially the primary educators, because of that sheer amount of time,
Right.
their ability to support their kids during times of crisis becomes even more significant.
Which makes you wonder, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does that support really look like?
Right.
And how do we help
Exactly.
the families who don't have the resources or the knowledge?
Yeah, how do we give them the tools?
Yeah, to support their kids.
Effectively. Because it's about empowering them, not blaming them.
It's not about blaming.
And this is where his own personal story
Okay.
is so striking,
Okay.
because he didn't come from a background
Mm-hmm.
that you would typically associate with academic success.
Right.
He openly shares that he's the son of immigrants,
Wow.
both high school dropouts. Statistically speaking,
Yeah.
children in that situation are
Right.
more likely to drop out themselves.
So talk about defying the odds.
I know.
Because he and both of his siblings ended up not just going to college, but like earning advanced degrees.
I know, it's amazing.
That's incredible.
It really is.
So there's got to be a story there.
Oh, there is.
Was it like a sudden windfall of money?
No.
Okay.
No, he really emphasizes that it wasn't like financial privilege that propelled them forward.
Right.
It was this belief
Okay.
in education.
So his parents really instilled this in them.
From day one, they viewed education as non-negotiable. It was their ticket to a better life.
Wow.
And he tells this great anecdote.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Lay it on us.
Okay, so he's in second grade,
Okay.
and his teacher corrects his pronunciation of the word 30
Okay.
because he was saying it with his parents' Irish, little turdy.
30. Yeah.
30 turdy?
I can only imagine how some parents today would react to that.
Oh, I know, right?
If a teacher corrected their child's
Right.
pronunciation.
Right. Like that. But his parents didn't protest.
Really?
They didn't challenge the teacher or anything.
No.
They just told him to learn the correct pronunciation.
Wow. Talk about a laser focus on the outcome.
I know, right?
Like they saw the school as a partner in this.
Exactly.
Not like an adversary.
Why not an adversary?
They weren't there to like pick fights.
They understood that
They just wanted their kids to
in
learn.
education is this collaborative process.
Yeah. And they understood that maybe even better than some parents today.
And Darfler-Sweeney contrasts this
Yeah.
with what he observed later in his career,
Right.
both as a teacher and a superintendent.
Where he saw this disconnect
This disconnect.
between what the schools were trying to do
Right.
and how some parents viewed their role.
Exactly. It's like they were speaking different languages.
It's like they're speaking totally different languages.
Totally.
And they're like ships passing in the night.
And he talks about how schools were creating these elaborate information centers
Really?
for parents.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? What is that?
Bombarding them with newsletters,
Shall I say?
websites, meetings,
Right.
assuming that
More information.
more information equals
And
engagement.
like, you can lead a horse to water,
Exactly.
but you can't make it drink.
Right.
And it's like, just because you provide the information
Right.
doesn't mean people will automatically know how to use it.
Right. Or even want to.
Or even want to.
Or have the time.
They can be overwhelming.
Totally.
Right.
And it can make parents feel
Yeah.
even more lost and unsure of how to help.
Like, what am I supposed to do with all this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like trying to bake a cake
Okay.
by just reading a cookbook,
Okay.
but not understanding the techniques.
Gotcha.
You might have all the ingredients,
Yeah.
but you're not going to end up with a very good cake.
So if information overload isn't the answer, then
Right.
what is? Right. And that's where he proposes this really interesting idea
Okay.
of a parent curriculum.
A parent
A
curriculum.
parent curriculum.
Right.
It's about moving away from simply throwing information at parents
Right.
and towards this more structured, intentional approach
Okay.
to parent education,
Okay.
equipping them with the tools and the knowledge
Okay.
to be true partners in their children's education.
Now we're talking.
Right.
But before we get into the specifics of that,
Yeah.
let's bring in another voice.
Yeah.
Right? Another perspective. Because we have Molly's forward,
Yes, his daughter.
his daughter Molly.
And that's what makes her perspective so valuable.
She grew up with this.
She lived it.
Yeah.
It wasn't theoretical for her.
This is her life.
Yeah. And it reminds us how important it is to hear diverse voices,
Right.
right? Different experiences when we talk about education.
Because what works for one family might not work for another.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's okay.
And that's
a thing.
All right, so let's dive into Molly's experience and see what we can learn.
Let's do it.
So Molly's forward, he talks about this idea of like trusting the process.
Right.
And she says it's like this mantra in her family.
Yes.
Especially with like their love of running.
There's a lot in that phrase.
Right.
Trusting the process.
It's about trusting the training, right?
Even when it's tough.
Yeah.
Believing that like consistency will lead to results.
It's not about the shortcuts.
Right.
It's about putting in the work.
It sounds like that idea wasn't limited to just running, though.
Right. Like it infused their approach to education.
Yeah. It's like that mindset of like, you know, instead of looking for those shortcuts or those quick fixes, they focused on like building that solid foundation.
Nurturing a love of learning.
And it ties in with what we were talking about those like...
those silver bullets.
Silver bullet solutions, right?
Right.
That promise to magically fix everything.
Like just take this pill.
Yeah.
And all your problems will go away.
And you'll be a genius.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Education's a marathon, right?
It is a marathon, not a sprint.
Not a sprint.
Right.
Okay, so this brings us back to this parent curriculum idea.
Okay.
So we've established that, like, empowering parents is key.
Yes.
But, like, how do we actually do that?
Right.
How do we bridge this, like, knowledge gap?
Right. How do we give them...
And give parents...
the tools they need.
Just their kids.
To support their kids.
Effectively.
So how do we actually give them, like, the tools?
He gets surprisingly granular.
Okay.
With his suggestions.
Okay.
And he starts with one that's pretty radical.
Okay.
Starting early.
Okay.
Like prenatal early.
Whoa, prenatal as in before the baby is even born.
Before the baby is born.
That's early.
That's really early.
Wow.
But his point is that those early months are crucial for laying the groundwork for lifelong learning. So not just like...
He talks about schools creating these prenatal networks.
What?
Connecting expectant parents with resources and support.
So not just how to change a diaper.
That too.
Yeah.
Like about how to
nurture a child's developing brain.
Nurture their love of learning from the get-go.
From the get-go.
Wow.
It's like recognizing that parents are already... starting this journey.
You're already on this train.
Even before the baby arrives.
Yeah.
And he talks about like incorporating these concepts into existing programs. Like toddler orientation. Meeting parents where they are.
Right.
Yeah.
So early on it might be like, I don't know, phonics or like...
Yeah, like how to create a literacy-rich home.
Right. Exactly.
And then later on it shifts.
To like study skills.
Study skills. Digital literacy.
Right.
Navigating college prep.
So it's like you're giving them the tools.
Give them the tools for every stage.
For every age and stage. Right.
And recognizing that parents have lives.
Parents are busy.
Parents are busy. They can't drop everything.
They can't just go to like...
And go to endless school meetings.
Yes.
So it's about making it accessible.
Right. Offer it online.
Online workshops.
In person.
In-person support groups.
Yeah.
Maybe even peer-to-peer mentorship.
Because sometimes parents just need to hear from other parents.
Exactly.
Who've been there.
Who've been through it.
Right.
Right.
And figure it out.
Because we've poured so much into, like, equipping teachers.
Right.
Which, of course, is important.
Yeah.
But we've often overlooked the fact...
that parents need support, too.
That parents need support and guidance.
They're expected to be these, like, all-knowing champions of education.
Right.
But we don't treat them like that.
But we don't give them...
You don't give them the tools or the training.
We just expect them to know.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's about recognizing them.
Recognizing them as vital members of this ecosystem. That their success is intertwined.
Their success is intertwined with their child's success.
Exactly.
And it's about empowering them, not dictating to them.
Yeah. Not telling them how to parent.
Providing the knowledge and the resources for them to make informed decisions.
Yep.
For their own children within their own family dynamics.
And that empowerment.
Right.
It goes beyond academics, too.
It does.
Because he also talks about, like, extracurriculars.
Yes.
As, like, this powerful tool.
For engagement.
For engagement.
Yeah.
And he's not just talking about, like...
He's not just talking about sports.
Sports and clubs.
Or like, you know, the chess club.
Right.
He's talking about programs that are deeply connected to what's happening in the classroom.
So making learning come alive.
Making learning come alive.
All right.
Showing them the practical applications.
So instead of just like reading about photosynthesis, they're out there planting a garden, getting their hands dirty, and parents can be involved in that.
Exactly.
So it's not just dropping your kid off at another activity.
Right. It's a shared experience.
It's a shared experience for families to learn together.
Exactly.
And it gets to that question that kids always ask.
When will I ever use this?
When am I ever going to use this in real life?
Right.
And it's like, well,
here it is.
here you go.
This is it.
This is it.
You're using it.
Right in front of you.
You're using it right now.
It's about sparking that curiosity.
Exactly.
Not just in the student, but in the parent.
But in the parent, too.
I love that.
Yeah.
And he says that these programs can address like
issues of equity and access.
Right.
It's about being creative with funding.
Right.
Partnering with community organizations.
Yeah.
Businesses.
Businesses, local colleges.
Local colleges, think about the possibilities.
The possibilities are endless.
Right.
This isn't
just about extracurriculars.
This is about weaving them into the fabric
of a well-rounded education.
We can't keep treating these like they're extras.
They're not extras.
When they could be so much more.
They're an integral part of the whole thing.
And let's not forget.
Yes.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
Especially after
COVID.
The whole remote learning roller coaster.
The digital divide.
The digital divide.
Oh my gosh.
Right, because how do we ensure
make sure
that all students have access?
That all students have access to the technology.
And not just access.
And the skills.
The skills to use it.
To use it effectively.
Effectively.
And not just the students. The parents, too.
Because it's not enough to just hand them a laptop.
Hand them a laptop and say good luck.
And be like, there you go, figure it out.
Figure it out.
You're on the internet now.
Right.
Good luck.
Good luck with that.
It's about bridging this digital literacy gap.
Digital literacy is huge.
And not just for the students.
Yeah. For the parents, too.
For the parents, too.
Absolutely.
Because if the parents don't know, how can they guide their kids?
He actually proposes a digital skills curriculum for both students and parents.
Okay.
Teaching them how to navigate the online world safely.
Right.
How to identify credible information.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because let's be honest.
Because that's
a crucial skill.
For everyone.
For everyone these days.
These days especially.
Right.
So it's like you're giving them...
It's like giving them a compass.
A compass and a map.
And a map.
For this vast digital landscape.
It's Wild West. The internet.
And we're not just talking about
Right.
protecting them from online risks.
Right. It's also about
but also opening up this whole world of
a world of possibilities.
Possibilities.
Imagine a parent who once felt intimidated by technology.
Right.
Suddenly discovering that they can explore museums online with their child.
Yeah.
Or research a topic together.
Yeah.
For a school project.
Yeah.
That's incredibly empowering.
It's incredible.
Right.
And it all comes back to that 6 and 18 idea, right?
It does.
That learning doesn't have to be confined.
It's not confined.
To a classroom.
To
a textbook.
It's happening all around us.
It's happening everywhere all the time.
All the time.
Especially in this digital age.
So
we've talked about this parent curriculum.
Yeah.
We've talked about the power of extracurriculars.
Yes.
We've talked about tackling this digital divide.
Absolutely.
But it really boils down to this,
this fundamental shift.
In
how we view parents.
Right.
And their role in education.
We need to move away from
fixing parents.
And
toward empowering them.
Empowering parents.
Right. Recognizing their invaluable role.
Because they are so important.
So important.
In their children's education. So it's we need this whole new model for how we think about education.
Right. It's not just about what happens in the classroom.
Right.
It's about recognizing that parents are the head coaches.
They're the head coach.
They're not just on the sidelines.
They're not just cheering from the stands.
They're the ones calling the plays.
I love that.
And just like any good coach,
they
need the training and the support to lead their team to success.
Because this isn't about telling parents how to parent.
No.
Or dictating their every move.
It's about giving them the playbook.
It's about giving them the tools.
Their strategies.
The support system.
To make the best decisions for their kids.
In their own context. For their own families.
Exactly. And a huge part of that is shifting this dynamic between schools and families.
And he talks about how...
Because right now it feels very
It's very siloed.
Schools
often operate in isolation.
Yeah.
But he's imagine...
If they became these hubs of the community.
Right. Bringing everyone together.
Partnering with parents, organizations, businesses.
Local businesses.
Businesses, everyone.
It's this web of support.
For
these kids.
For these students.
Because we all benefit when kids succeed.
We're all in this together, right?
Yeah.
A strong education system.
Lifts all boats.
It strengthens our communities as a whole.
Exactly.
It's an investment in our future.
So let's say someone's listening right now.
Yeah.
Like a teacher.
Yeah.
A principal. a parent.
Okay.
And they're like, all right, I'm on board with this.
Yeah.
Where do I even begin?
He's a big proponent of just starting a conversation.
Okay.
Like, encourage school leaders to create, like, open, honest dialogues.
With parents, with teachers.
With parents, with teachers, with community members.
Everyone's at the table.
Everyone has a voice at the table.
Right, because we can't solve these problems.
We can't.
If we're all speaking different languages.
Different languages, different planets.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not like a one and done.
No, it's not a one and done.
It's like this ongoing thing.
It is ongoing communication. Making it clear that parents are heard, valued, respected as partners.
And really listening to what parents have to say.
Especially those.
Especially parents who might not.
Who might not have felt heard before.
Right.
Right.
Really, like, taking that in.
Understanding their experiences, their challenges, their unique family dynamics.
Because we were saying this earlier.
Yeah.
But every parent wants what's best for their kid.
Of course.
And they often have...
They have so much wisdom.
Incredible wisdom.
And insight to share.
If we just take the time to listen.
If we just take the time to listen.
It's about creating that space for shared learning.
Yes.
Not just for the students, but for...
For the parents.
The parents. For the educators.
For the educators. For all of us.
And recognizing that those 18 hours...
Was 18 hours are where it's at.
They hold so much power.
That's what I love about his message.
Yeah.
It's not about placing blame. It's about saying, we're in this together.
We're all in this together.
Let's empower each other.
Yes.
To help our children and our communities thrive.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
But I want to leave our listeners with this question.
Okay.
The author asks in his book.
Okay.
He says, if schools offered a parent curriculum,
okay,
just like they do for students,
interesting,
what would be the most valuable course to teach?
Wow.
And how would it change that 6 and 18 dynamic?
That's a great question.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
To discuss, maybe even to act on.
It could be a real movement.
Right.
A real shift.
Well, it's been great talking to you.
This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks for taking us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
Until next time, keep those conversations going.
Keep learning
and keep exploring.